Welcome, everyone. Our program is going to begin in about 10 minutes.
Hello there, and welcome to the Main Sale Shop, where we upcycle old Clearwater sales and t-shirts. We make face masks, ditty bags, backpacks, duffel bags, guitar straps, keychains, and even dog leashes. So if you want to own a piece of the Clearwater, go to our website and check out all of our products. And remember, 100% of all the proceeds go to supporting the Clearwater and helping it keep it afloat. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Sewing shop. Yes? Of course. 3 duffel bags. 4 clutches. No problem. 3 guitar straps. Yep. 10 face masks. Of course we can do it. Absolutely. 3 dog leashes? Definitely. Keychains? You got it.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes.
Hello there, and welcome to the main sale shop, where we upcycle old clear water sails and t-shirts. We make face masks, ditty bags, backpacks, duffel bags, guitar straps, keychains, and even dog leashes. So if you want to own a piece of the Clearwater, go to our website and check out all of our products. And remember, 100% of all the proceeds go to supporting the Clearwater and helping it keep it afloat. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Sewing shop. Yes? Of course. 3 duffel bags. 4 clutches. No problem. 3 guitar straps. Yep. 10 face masks. Of course we can do it. Absolutely. 3 dog leashes? Definitely. Keychains? You got it.
And I'd also like that tote bag. Oh, I'm sorry, we're on here. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Spirit of the Hudson virtual gala. I'm Ron Olesko, and I'm going to be your MC tonight, and I am so honored to be here and so excited about all of this as well. I've hosted a folk music show on WFDU-FM in Teaneck, New Jersey since 1980, and 2 years ago I launched a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week internet channel devoted to folk music called folkmusicnotebook.com. And through it all, the artists that I've met, the friends that I've made through Clearwater have been a key component of all my programs. So for me to be here tonight is just a real thrill. Now, it was through folk music that I first learned of the Clearwater, and I'm betting many of you out there feel the same way. I had heard about this loop prior to becoming a radio host, but I really didn't get a chance to fully visit the Clearwater until I went to that very first Hudson River revival in 1978, and I still have my program. While I was there, I learned so much about a river that I grew up with, the Hudson River. And as Pete and everybody wanted, we all got down to that river, we saw the problems, and so many of you became involved. And that's why we're here tonight. Now, tonight, we're going to celebrate the Clearwater, hopefully raise some money for them to help this mission. And I'm extremely happy to report that even though COVID 19 has impacted all of our lives and prevented us from being in the same room tonight, uh, the Clearwater has continued through virtual programs, and I'm also thrilled to report that they are now booking for education sales and charters starting in the spring. So we can look forward to seeing the sloop sailing the Hudson and welcoming passengers. Now, the Clearwater will be COVID safe. They're going to take all precautions. And the virtual programming is also going to continue to allow students and other groups who are unable to attend in person to still have that experience. Well, tonight we also have an auction going. There is some incredible items on sale that you can bid on, as well as merchandise that you can purchase. So you'll see in the chat feature, that's that little button down here. It says chat. You can go on that, click on it, and you'll see all of the links that the moderators are going to be posting throughout the evening. And your help is what keeps this all going. We're also going to honor tonight all those water protectors who really had an impact on the Hudson River, the Hudson Valley, New York State, and our planet through all of their advocacy efforts. We'll be recognizing the environmental advocacy of Carl S. Copeland, and also the Beacon Sloop Club will be honored tonight. So the Spirit of Hudson Awards will be coming up a little later on. We're also going to be treated to a wonderful performance and some stories from Gordon Bach. As many of you know, he was on that very first sail that brought the boat from Maine to New York. Now, we're also going to meet a number of individuals who have been involved with the Clearwater, board members, volunteers, crew members, and friends. And I'd like to start by welcoming to this virtual podium the board president and acting executive director. He spent 19 years as a Clearwater educator. In 2016, he was honored by the Hudson River Environmental Society with the Outstanding Environmental Communicator Award. He's also a wonderful musician. I first met him through the Hudson River Sloop Singers and Betty and the Baby Boomers. So it's my pleasure to welcome Steve Stan.
Ron, thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who are here tonight to share in the work that Clearwater has been doing. And I see folks from around the country. I understand there's some folks that may be checking in from Australia tonight. It's one of the advantages of one of the few advantages of the COVID pandemic is that we've learned how to communicate in this fashion and get together over long distances in ways that wouldn't be possible with a real gala. But we appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support for Clearwater, helping out our mission of inspiring lifelong stewardship of the Hudson River, its watershed, and doing that by connecting people of all ages with the living river. We're going to see and hear examples of how Clearwater does that tonight in videos, in live segments, and I think you'll be inspired by what you see. If you enjoyed the pre-roll, you're going to love some of the videos that are coming up in a few minutes. But before we get on to that celebration, I did want to actually take a more somber moment now to honor and memorialize someone who was critical to Clearwater's early years, its first year, Captain Aunapu, who passed away recently, unfortunately. And, there's a tradition on Clearwater, as many of you know if you've sailed on the boat, of ringing the ship's bell and taking a few moments just to listen to what's going on around you. And what I'd like to do for a few minutes now is to go ahead and ring that ship's bell. And I'm going to ask you to make sure you're muted, and we're just going to take a few minutes to think back to those early days of Clearwater and Alan's skippering the boat as it made the trip from Maine down to New York City and up the Hudson for the first time. So I'm going to ring the bell. If you could just be muted for a few minutes. Thanks. Alan was a truly wonderful person, and we were honored to have him work for Clearwater. And tonight in the breakout sessions at the end of the meeting, you'll have a chance to learn more about Alan and to share stories if you knew him. Captain Betsy Garthwaite and Marilyn Healy and Vince Siniglia will be hosting a breakout room where we'll share stories of Alan and all they did for Clear. So that'll be a chance for you to, if you didn't know him, it's a chance to learn about him. If you did know him, it'll be a great time to share your stories of interactions with him. Well, right now we're going to introduce Clearwater's development director. She's relatively new to Clearwater, and she told me today that she's in the process of putting together the gala. She's learned a whole lot about Clearwater's history and all the work that we've been doing, and she has been doing a great job. So I'd like to make welcome now Meg Mayo. Meg.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Steve. And thank you to all of our guests who are here tonight. Really looking forward to tonight's program. So I'm going to launch into first some housekeeping items. We are, the program tonight is going to be best viewed in speaker view. And if you're seeing a whole bunch of squares on your screen right now, you'll want to go up to the top right-hand corner of your screen where it says view and click on that and select speaker. It's going to be more enjoyable that way. The other item to let you know is that we are recording the program tonight. And you are muted, and we ask you to please stay muted so that we can hear what's going on in the program. But the chat is open, and we have some of our, we have moderators, Clearwater staff who are moderating, who can answer any of your questions. You're able to communicate with your friends in the chat and ask for help. And we'll be dropping some helpful links into the chat as well. So you probably have already seen Amali on there. And Erica is going to be helping out in the chat as well. So I have some thank yous that I need to share with all of you. And let me just get my screen share going here. Tonight we're also holding in conjunction with the gala, and you probably received emails about this. We have an auction. The auction is running until 7:45 tonight. We have a hard close at 7:45 tonight. I want to thank our auction donors. These are people who all donated items to our auction, and you can check it out still on Ready Set Auction. And in a minute or two, I'll bring a slide up that has a QR code to be able to get to that site so that you can get to it easily. I also want to thank our Captain Circle ticket holders. And these are the people who purchased the Captain Circle tickets. All of you who purchase your tickets before February 27th should have received your Ditty bag in the mail. That bag itself was donated by Eco Bags, and we're very grateful to them for that. And if you purchase your tickets after the 27th, we'll be sending your Ditty bag next week. So be on the lookout for that. The Clearwater Board of Directors, I need to give a huge shout out to. These people work so hard, and I'm very grateful for their leadership and vision, especially during this past year. I enjoy the passion and excitement that they bring to every conversation that I have with them. I also need to thank the Clearwater staff, who I just love working with these people. This is the group of people who really make the magic happen behind Clearwater. And last but not least, the Gala committee. I spent Wednesday afternoons with these people for the last 2 months, and they are a wonderful gang of people who put together the program for tonight. And so a huge shout out to all of them as well. And that was the wrong slide. So I will stop sharing now. And yep, so so the next thing, I'm going to segue right now into the Clearwater video without further ado. We have this great video that gives you a peek into a day in the life on the Clearwater, doing what Clearwater does best, teaching and changing viewpoints and expanding visions. And over to you, Ben.
One, two, three, four. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning, I'd hammer out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning, I'd ring it in the evening, all over this land. I'd ring out the danger, I'd ring out a warning, I'd ring out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. If I had a song, I'd sing it in the morning, I'd sing it in the evening, all over this land. I'd sing out the danger, I'd sing out a warning, I'd sing out the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land. Well, I've got a hammer, and I've got a bell, and I've got a song to sing all over this land. It's the hammer of justice, it's the bell of freedom, it's the song about the love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land, all over this land, all over this land. It's the hammer of freedom, it's the hammer of justice, all over this land.
What a great video. Wow. I'm sure we're all looking forward to seeing those wonderful faces on board the Clearwater again. And remember, this spring, the Clearwater will be doing sales, educational sales and private charters. And it's not going to be full capacity. You know, they're going to follow the restrictions and make sure it's safe for everybody who's on board. So they're doing the right thing. And, you know, you can find out more by calling the Clearwater. And speaking of that, make sure you check out the auction. I was just browsing through some of the wonderful items that are available, and one of them is a sale, a private sale on the Clearwater for 25 people. Not bad. You and your 25 closest friends. So I would check it out. There's other great items. The auction ends at 7:45, so be sure to get to the page and do more for the Clearwater. Well, we're going to meet a few people now who have devoted their time and energy to Clearwater. Now, we're going to be hearing from Janine Napierkowski, who is the board vice president, and she's also been an onboard volunteer as well as working closely with the LGBTQ and Youth Empowerment Program. But first, we're going to meet a longtime volunteer and a very important person because he keeps track of the finances. Please welcome Board Treasurer Neil Gordon.
Hello, everybody. Great to be here, and I hope you're enjoying the gala. If you don't mind, I'm going to share some pictures while I talk. Although I've lived outside of Boston for the past 35 years, I'm a Bronx kid originally, mostly growing up in Yonkers. I remember the river as it was, and I remember Clearwater from the earliest days. Although I was a member for a long time, it wasn't until 8 years ago that I found time to volunteer. I've since logged 14 volunteer weeks on board. Pre-COVID, a week in the spring and a week in the fall. That volunteer time led me to join the Clearwater Board about 4 years ago. The pictures say more about why Clearwater is important to me than any words. I'll just add this. Returning from a volunteer week a few years ago, I met a 30-year-old, more or less, in a local park. He saw my Clearwater volunteer shirt and shared that he had been on board with his New York City school 20 years before. I asked him what he might remember about the program, and he shared this. I don't remember any of the details, he said. I just remember it's important to keep the river clean. If that's the only takeaway, that's enough to bring me back for yet another volunteer week. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Hello, my name is Janine Naprakowski. I am the Vice President of the Board of Directors. I grew up boating all over and have been an onboard volunteer for the past 7 summers. My first experience with Clearwater was back in October 2013 as a passenger. It was freezing but magical, and Clearwater has had a special place in my heart since then. I love the satisfied feeling of the end of the day after being out on the water, in the sun and the wind, and I want to share that feeling with others. The Queerwater LGBTQ Youth Empowerment Program is my pet project because of all the wonderful friendships I've made while on board. Thank you for supporting Clearwater and the youth of the Hudson Valley.
And thank you, Janine and Neil. That was some inspiring messages there about the Clearwater and all the great work you're doing. Listen, we have some new people who joined us. We had a little problem getting in. We've got it fixed, so we welcome everybody who's arrived. Just a reminder, we're also recording this, so we'll work out some ways. So if anything you missed, we'll figure it out. You'll get to see it. You haven't missed a thing. It'll all be available for you. Well. The Clearwater, it's an organization that was founded by Pete and Toshi Seeger. Back in 1966 is when it was incorporated, and within 3 years, the sloop was built, launched, and the mission was underway. Now, I'm not sure if anyone has ever kept a tally of just how many people have crewed the Clearwater, served as educators, or just simply volunteered their services for the many jobs that are required to keep the sloop and this organization sailing. And the waters, well, they may have been rough at times, but they all see it through. Now, we'd like to introduce you to some of the volunteers who are going to offer a toast to the past, present, and the future.
Listen up. I'd like to make a toast to our great crew, staff, and board of directors. L'chaim from the crew of the Little Clearwater.
Hi, I'm Erin Macharoli, the Director of Operations, and I would like to make a toast to you. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for caring about the environment and the Hudson River, education, activism, the sloop, revival. Thank you for being part of this community. You are deeply appreciated. Cheers to
all
you.
the fish in the estuary, to all the members of Clearwater, thank you for cleaning up our home. You deliver for the river.
Hi, Ann Malloy here, Clearwater's Manager of Membership. I would like to take a moment and toast all our amazing Clearwater members. Thank you all for sticking by us in 2020. Hope to see you all on the river soon. Cheers.
I'm Matt Sultan. I'm the Environmental Action Associate at Clearwater. We've done a lot for EA this year. The best is yet to come.
Hi, I'm Hal Cohen, IT Director. I had the good fortune of being on that first crew for a little bit that brought Clearwater down from Maine. One of my shipmates was Louis Killen. Louis taught us the Seaman's Hymn. Come all you bold seamen, wherever you're bound, and always let Nelson's good memory go round. And pray that the wars and the tumult will cease, and for the greatest of gifts is a sweet lasting peace. May the Lord put an end to these cruel old wars and bring peace and contentment to all our brave tars. Louisa Joe Killen died in 2013. I would like to make a toast to all of those who sailed as crew on Clearwater and kept it safe all these years, and to all of those who will continue to sail her in the future. In those days, sailors drank rum.
Greetings. My name is Erica Lucy, and I'm the Digital Media Manager. And this water goes to you, Clearwater. May your winds be ever fair.
Hi, my name is Anita Vargas. I'm the Consulting Controller for Hudson River Sloop Clearwater. I'd like to make a toast to all of you, the attendees of the virtual gala, our communities, and our donors who have kept the faith in our beautiful, life-sustaining, and soul-soothing river. Cheers. Salut to all.
Hi everyone, I'm Debbie Cohen, the Database Manager at Clearwater, and I'd like to toast Clearwater the boat and Clearwater, all of us together. So, here's to fair winds and smooth sailing, both as a metaphor and hopefully for real soon.
Hi everybody, my name is Nicholas Rogers. I'm out here sailing on the Hudson River. Thank you everybody for coming to the gala. Hope you guys are all having a good time. We're having a quarter left. We're having a great time. So my toast today is to the future generations. Not just the ones that get to sail this vessel, but the ones that get to take care of this vessel too. So us being stewards of the boat today and of this river today can help people enjoy the boat and the river in the future. So here's to the stewards and to the future generations. Take care, everybody. Have flat.
Cheers to Clearwater for more than 50 years of environmental advocacy, education, and sailing along the Hudson. Thank you for joining us in celebration tonight at our gala and for your support and participation year-round. My name is Gigi Rapetti. I'm the administrative assistant here at Clearwater, and also along with Beth Partridge, the co-coordinator of the Clearwater store at Revival. We look forward to seeing you again soon in the future.
Eli Schloss, Tideline Program Director. Cheers to all our supporters from Kingston, New York, to Kingston, Jamaica, to Kingston, Ontario, and from Poughkeepsie, New York to there's only one Poughkeepsie.
Hi, I'm Joan Gaylord. I'm a board member. I'm also currently serving as the interim co-executive director along with Steve Stan, though he does more of the work. My shout out is to the amazing Clearwater staff who pour more thought, energy, heart, time into this work than you can imagine. Props, guys.
Now, if we were all together in a banquet hall somewhere, we'd all be standing and raising our glasses and doing a toast together. So I'm going to do a virtual toast for all of us. And symbolically, I just have clear water in here because, frankly, if it wasn't for the Clearwater and all the work that they've been doing since that launch at 69, I don't think I'd have this to drink. So thanks to all of you. Oh, it's cold. Well, don't forget the auction. There's some great items there. I've got a blank wall behind me, so I was looking at that wonderful picture from Jonathan Talbot. He is an incredible artist, and he was friends with Pete and Toshi and grew up in Patterson, New York, too far, and well, the love from the river is apparent in that. So please go to the auction site, check out some of these things, and the wonderful merchandise too. I want to show you something. Back at one of the Clearwater festivals early on, I got this. This is a piece of the original Sail of the Clearwater, and it was signed by Pete. They did a wonderful wood carving on it, and I treasured this. I have normally up in my den, but I understand there's a lot of great merch available now with made from the recent sale from the Clearwater, tote bags and purses and keychains. You heard Mark Wiener talk about it, so it's something to take with you all the time. Well, Still to come tonight, we're going to have the Spirit of the Hudson Awards. They'll be presented, and we're also going to be treated to a performance from Gordon Bach. And later, we're going to have 3 breakout rooms where we can gather to chat and find out more about some wonderful topics, including a discussion with shipwright Jim Cricker and Nick Rogers, the captain, for finding out about the work that is needed to maintain the Clearwater for all these decades. There will be another breakout room with Dr. Robin Bell of the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory of Columbia University, and Amaja Nimesto, who is the co-author of The Hudson, an illustrated guide to the living river. They'll have an informal discussion about sea level rise and other climate change impacts, and things ranging from melting ice sheets to marsh migration on the Hudson. And also there will be a room to remember Alan Aunapu, a tribute to the first captain of the Clearwater that will be led by former Clearwater captain Betsy Garthwaite. Well, the Clearwater is certainly a familiar sight on the Hudson, something that we all know and love, and we're looking forward to having the sails again this spring as we slowly emerge from this pandemic. And as I mentioned, the Clearwater is going to maintain proper protocol for COVID-19. They're booking right now, but keeping the sloop afloat is literally the job of our next 2 guests, and they're going to talk a little bit about what it is about that sloop. We're going to hear from Captain Nick Rogers, who's been captain on the Clearwater since 2008 and also a board member. Samantha Hicks, she started work on the sloop when she was an apprentice there in 1994, and she worked her way up to become captain of the Clearwater from 2000 to 2005. So let's go to that video. I think Captain Sam is going to start us off.
I'm quite convinced that 500 years from now the Clearwater will still be sailing. We probably will have replaced every plank on her by that time. She will have been run through 5 or 6 masts, maybe 10 or 12, but she'll still be sailing because there'll still be a job to do.
Clearwater is so many things. It's a community. It's a symbol. It's a piece of history. It's a beacon of hope. It's a dedicated staff. It's an unparalleled education platform.
When I think about the organization, I think first of just the majesty of the sloop sailing in the Hudson as she has done for 5 decades, and then carrying all those children, all those students of all ages, more than 500,000 since she was launched in 1969. Clearwater has given them this profound experience that first and foremost gets people outside, connects them to the river and the ecosystem, but also engages students in critical thinking that's so important in today's world, and using that experience to create stewards, to give students the sense of stewardship and then the tools for how to become and be a good steward for the Hudson Valley, for the watershed.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Rogers. I'm one of the captains that works here. I've been working here for a long time, and there's always going to be a job to do. So P had this quote, it's something like, in a couple hundred years, this boat will still be sailing, and it will have had 5 or 6 masts, or, I forget the whole quote, but it's just great. And but the only way that's going to be true, and the only way we're going to keep that true, is if we take care of it. And so there's always a job to do, but doing the job here during the winters allows us to continue the job that we need to do out on the river. Taking people sailing, taking them out, showing people how beautiful the Hudson is, and that's the way they're going to take care of it. So there's always a job to do because a wooden boat rots and the river needs our help.
But she'll still be sailing because there'll still be a job to do.
Those are folks I love. I worked on the boat for a good part of my 19-year career with Clearwater. And to see the folks, the kids on the boat, to see the crew teaching, it's just magical for me. It brings back a lot of memories. And we will be sailing this year. So it won't just be memories, it'll be real experiences to come. The next, we're not the only people who appreciate Clearwater. That is the folks who are here tonight and who know something about the organization and our staff and our board and our work. There are others who know of that work, who are in positions to help achieve the goals that Clearwater stands for: a cleaner environment, a cleaner river, doing something about climate change and the like. And we're going to hear videos now from those, a number of those people, elected representatives from New York State and the Hudson Valley. I won't introduce them. I think you'll know who most of them are. And so, Ben, if we're ready, I think we'll go right to.
Just one
Oh,
moment.
not seeing it yet. Well, I'll introduce them then. We're going to be hearing from, oh, here we go.
Hi, everyone. This is Senator Chuck Schumer, and I hope everyone joining for Clearwater's 2021 Spirit of the Hudson Gala tonight is healthy and safe. For decades, Clearwater has been one of the most important voices in the Hudson Valley in the cause of environmental stewardship. Your educational work and your advocacy has inspired countless people in New York to protect the Hudson and to strive for a world where we truly do honor and care for the environment, all the while sailing down Pete's golden river. Over the years, it's been an honor working alongside Clearwater to champion environmental causes with the goal of ending pollution of the Hudson, proving time and time again that our river connects us. Every single day, your cause will continue to be my cause in Washington. As Senate Majority Leader, I'll work with the Biden administration on bold climate legislation that will not only protect our natural bounties, but create the sustainable green jobs of tomorrow. With your voice leading the way, I am confident we can get this done. So thanks to all of you for letting me share a message, and I wish all of you a prosperous 2021.
Hello, I'm Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and I am so pleased to be a part of the Hudson River Sloop Clearwater's 2021 Spirit of the Hudson Gala. And I want to thank and congratulate each of tonight's honorees. Tonight's theme, Our River Connects Us, perfectly captures the vision of Clearwater's founder, legendary musician and artist Pete Seeger. Clearwater has always recognized the role the Hudson River plays in bringing our communities together and the importance of protecting this integral and precious part of the environment. During these difficult times when we are separated from one another, efforts that unite us with a shared purpose, like your efforts to protect the Hudson and ensure a clean, healthy environment for future generations, are more important than ever. Thank you for all the work you've done to carry on Pete Seeger's legacy. You have shown what's possible when people come together, and I hope that your efforts serve as a model and inspiration to others to champion the environment here in New York and beyond. Please accept my best wishes for a wonderful celebration and many more years of success.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mondaire Jones, and I represent New York's 17th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. I am thrilled to join you to honor the work you've done this past year fighting for a safer and healthier Hudson River. Clearwater has been at the forefront of our most important battles. You fought the expansion of the Dan Scammer fracked gas power plant. You've called for the responsible decommissioning of Indian Point. And you've encouraged the development of renewable energy in our area. I am proud to fight alongside you to protect our natural resources and our environment, and I'm excited for our many victories to come.
Thank you all. Thank you for your hard work. And thanks to all of you for paying attention tonight and participating and watching the clock, because that auction ends in 40 minutes. 39 minutes now, so please be sure to go to the site. Don't forget, in the chat feature, the moderators are putting up links to the auction room, and you can check out some of the wonderful merchandise. I noticed there's a guitar strap made from the sloop of the Clearwater. How cool is that? If you're a guitarist or musician, you can be wearing the Clearwater every time you're on stage or just singing around the campfire. Well, This organization is run, as most organizations, by volunteers. They're the heart of an organization, and people have different reasons for joining and becoming a volunteer. So I'd like you to meet a few of our volunteers that have worked so hard for this incredible organization.
Hi, my name is Freddie GP, and I'm a former crew member on the sloop Clearwater. I first came on board in June 2019 as a volunteer, and then later that summer I came back on board as a sail trainee in August, where I learned everything I needed to learn in a month, and then became an educator deckhand for the next month and a half or so until I had to go back to school. But I actually just recently came back on board as an educator deckhand again in September 2020, just this past year. And yeah, I'm really excited to come back on board eventually this year. But yeah, Clearwater has a very special place in my heart. As you can see, I keep coming back. But yeah, I have a lot of love for the organization. I believe in everything it stands for and everything in its future. And yeah, thank you guys so much.
Hi folks, my name is Michael Ross. I live in Dobbs Ferry, New York. I have been a supporter of Clearwater and the Clearwater Revival for about 20 years. I discovered the Clearwater taking my family to the Clearwater Revival concert in Croton for many summers, and as a teacher, history, always wanted to sail with them and learn more about the history of the Hudson and how to better conserve and save it. I was blessed to be chosen as a volunteer during the summer of 2019, and I sailed from Kingston to Rensselaer with the crew, learned pretty much all the jobs, had the absolute greatest time of my life. I continue to be a supporter, and I'm hoping they'll be sailing again this summer because I will be there. I want another one of these shirts. Please support.
And thank you to all the volunteers, past and present, and those to come. You do an amazing job. I was first amazed when I went to the 1978, that first Great Hudson River Revival, and saw how many people were there putting this together. And it wasn't somebody just trying to get a free ticket. These were people that cared about the river. And really that was what Pete envisioned, holding a festival, building a sloop, bringing people down to the river so they could see firsthand what was going on. And I've showed this before. I still have my program. I have all the programs I've saved from the Hudson River Revival because to me it's just like a guide through our musical history. And it's not just folk music. As you know, if you've gone to the revival, there's music of all kinds, all communities. It's so diverse. It's just a wonderful event. And music is so important to the Clearwater. If you've ever been on board the boat, you know the singing that goes on. Just like in the old days of sea shanties, the work is being sung by those crewing the boat to help them through their jobs and also to entertain. And now we have a little video from a friend of ours who's going to narrate this to tell you a little bit more about the Clearwater and its connection with music.
Clearwater's on the
Since the very first efforts to build the Clearwater, music has been the wind that has driven its sails. It brings communities together to see the sloop's beauty and to support the cause of protecting the Hudson River.
It's a long haul, you better believe. Old Clearwater got a mighty big sail. Oh, make her go high. Oh, hoist her high now without fail. Oh, make her go high. Hey, Clearwater. Oh, make her go high. Hey, Clearwater. Oh, make her go high. Come along with me. Come along with me. Upon this.
From the beginning, Pete Seeger led his audiences in song. and made sure to bring other musicians along with him.
And we will see what we can do.
Many of those musicians became known as the Hudson River Sloop Singers.
There's no telling what the power of the people and the river can do.
As time went on, the circle of song widened, and in that spirit, the Walkabout Chorus was formed. Today, Walkabout continues to carry on a long Clearwater tradition of music being a vehicle for political action. For Clearwater, music has been how we celebrate, mourn, empower, protest, and inspire communities to act. Along the way, musicians have become educators, and educators musicians, as they teach about the beauty of the Hudson.
I thought I heard the bosun say, pay me my money down.
And as always, sailing on the sloop means joining together in song.
I'll meet you down by the river, down by the river, down by the river.
Since the very first festival was held on the summer solstice in 1978, hundreds of musicians and volunteers have celebrated the Clearwater by weaving activism together with food, music, dance, and the arts.
Restless and bored, I know a place can cure what ails you.
And the tradition endures.
I still hear that old time music of good friends now long gone. I am here tonight to pass the music on. I am here tonight to pass the music on. We are here tonight to pass the music on.
Yes, we are.
What a great video. You know, I'm watching that video and I'm thinking to myself, boy, so many of my friends are in that video, and so many artists that I've played on my radio shows all these years. I'm really amazed at how much Clearwater has affected my playlists and my radio channel. And the Great Hudson River Revival, so many wonderful memories. Now, I'm sure everybody's wondering what's happening this year. Well, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic isn't over yet. Things are looking better, but we're not quite there yet. So, for the safety of all the performers and volunteers, and of course the audience, Clearwater is going to hold another virtual festival this year. And I'll tell you, if it's anything like last year, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to take place on June 19th on the clearwaterfestival.org website, as well as other Clearwater social media channels. They are planning a 12-hour program, and there'll also be some exciting programs available surrounding the event this year. Now, you want a couple names? You want a little sneak preview? I've got it right here. Some of the performers coming up this year will be John McEwen. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, anybody? Yeah, John McEwen will be there. Matt Carsonis, Emma's Revolution, The Mammals, The Blind Boys of Alabama, Joanne Shenandoah, and Dom Flemons. That's just scratching the surface. There's going to be more announcements, and the schedule will come out, and there'll be t-shirts available, and that'll be coming up the next few weeks. So keep paying attention to the website, sign up for mailing list, and mark your calendar, June 19th. Where else are you going to go? You want to watch this? Well, as I mentioned, the idea of the Clearwater and the Great Hudson River Revival was to get folks down to the river so they could experience the environmental attacks the river was under. And this education inspired many to join in the good work of the Clearwater. Now, I'd like to introduce to you now two individuals whose passion for the environment and protecting our river has been a huge asset to the work of the Clearwater. So please welcome Environmental Action Associate Matt Salton and also Environmental Action Director Mana Jo Green.
Since 1969, Clearwater has been at the forefront of the fight to protect the Hudson River and the people and environment of its surrounding communities. Today, we continue to demonstrate our strength and influence in advocacy for the decommissioning of nuclear power plants and safe storage of nuclear waste, renewable energy solutions, and working to meet New York's climate goals by opposing the dance scammer frack gas expansion.
Over the years, we have joined forces with organizations such as Sierra Club, the Nature Conservancy, Sink Hudson, Newburgh Clean Water Project, Food and Water Watch, and are part of the Stop Dance Scammer Coalition, as well as the National Decommissioning Working Group. We also work with local, New York State, and federal elected officials to advance meaningful environmental legislation.
Our efforts are an extension of the original purpose of Sloop Clearwater, a daily call to justice for our environment, especially in the communities surrounding the Hudson River. We look forward to your continued support as we address the challenges to environmental and climate justice in the Hudson Valley.
Yes, it's true. We do a great deal of environmental work. We've been at it for a long time. As a matter of fact, going back to the start of the Clearwater, there was a contest to decide what the name of this new Hudson River sloop should be. There were a lot of names suggested, but the two that got the most votes, and it ended up in some sort of runoff, were Clearwater and Heritage. And they really, that captured the sort of twin themes that people were focused on around this new boat. You know what the outcome was. Clearwater was the choice, and that set the boat's course. The sloop was integrated into our environmental action program, sailing to Washington, D.C. to support the clean passage of the Clean Water Act, sailing to Seabrook to oppose nuclear power. Later, its work extended from the Hudson River estuary itself, from Albany down to New York City, up into the watershed and into the upper river, having to deal with the PCBs that were deposited by GE in the Hudson above Albany. And then on from the watershed to global phenomena that we face today, climate change, which has, of course, global impacts as well as local impacts here. And I'll take this moment to point out that we'll be hearing in the breakout session at the end of the program tonight from Robin Bell and Maya Nemisto about climate change. And so you can, it'll be a great conversation. They're wonderful presenters and know a lot about the topic. But we're looking on trying to act locally to impact those sorts of global challenges as well. And, you know, I'm going to come back to the local perspective now and go back in time instead of forward, looking at what can be done about climate change in the future. But looking back now to a time hundreds of years ago, centuries ago, and recognizing folks who loved the river long before Henry Hudson and later we arrived on the scene. I'm going to turn things over to Megan Amali to talk about this.
Thanks, Steve. Not long ago, I had the pleasure of sitting in on an education program that Amali and Nick were doing with an elementary school classroom, a virtual event, a virtual program. And they were, you know, I wasn't really sure what to expect. It was the first time that I was watching the two of them interact with a classroom. And I saw Nick out on the sloop, and he was, you know, these bright, shiny faces of these kids who were fascinated by what was showing them and what he was talking about with them. And I was multitasking and kind of not fully paying attention. You didn't hear that, Amali. But all of a sudden, they started talking about something that really captured my attention. And they were talking about the indigenous peoples who were here before us. And Amali popped up this website that depicted its indigenous lands. It is a map depicting who was here before us. And it completely changed how I viewed geography, how I viewed this place where I live. And it was a completely mind-opening experience for me. And I asked for this opportunity to lead into this conversation because it was such a profound moment for me that I've carried this with me ever since then, and I think about it. And Amali, I'm going to turn it over to you now because I'd love for you to talk some more about the Indigenous Peoples Program and the Education Department's approach to curriculum.
Thank you, Meg. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining our ed program that day. The Indigenous Peoples Program curriculum and implementation was a result of years-long workshopping by the crew and a renewed focus on community amidst the pandemic through the Our River Connects Us media campaign. On board the sloop, we're a community of people from all walks of life, all who are committed to the mission of Clearwater and who are constantly challenging ourselves to be better as educators, as shipmates, and as a family. Throughout our investigations to develop the program, we became aware of two things. One, that the Munsee word Ramapo means clear water, and the other that the site of the office in Beacon is, as best to our knowledge, the intersection of 3 Indigenous territories. That being Wappinger, Mohican, and Munsee Lenape. It is important for us to acknowledge the land that was stewarded and shared sustainably for 400 generations before European colonists arrived in the Hudson Valley. This land acknowledgement has reconfirmed our intentions for the programs department moving forward, keeping in mind that the symbolism and the reality of the location of the office ensures that our programs are representative of all of those who shared this land before us, with us today, and will in the future. Recognized as America's environmental flagship and one of the first to conduct science-based environmental education aboard a sailing ship, Clearwater Sailing Classroom Program incorporates Hudson Valley history, watershed ecology, art, music, and introductory sail training into a 3-hour sail, and it's the jewel in the crown of the organization. This year, we will begin in-person programs again in mid-May and are excited to welcome Hudson Valley students, community members, and Clearwater friends and family back out on the river with new COVID-friendly guidelines.
And thank you, Amali and Meg, and thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing, and these programs sound wonderful. If you look in the chat room, you can find out more about the Sailing Classroom program. The link has been put up there. And I believe there's also some links for the native land map that they were talking about. And I'm sure there's also, if you keep looking, there's some wonderful links for the auction and to donate to Clearwater. You can donate through PayPal. But the auction is closing in just about 20 minutes, and that's it. It's a hard out. So please take a look and you'll see some wonderful things. There's a Cape Cod vacation for a week. There's wonderful artwork, and of course the merch. Many of it made from the sails of the Clearwater, the main sail of the Clearwater. It's just marvelous. There's even a jigsaw puzzle, and especially in these days of COVID, when we're indoors, a jigsaw puzzle, that's perfect. And it's a wonderful photograph done by Alan Thomas, who is a good friend of the Clearwater and has taken some incredible photos. And I think you'll love that as well. So check them all out. It's all there. Got about 20 minutes to go, so don't forget. Well, now we've reached a very special part of the evening, the annual Spirit of the Hudson Awards. And here to introduce our first honoree, please welcome Clearboard board member Seth Davis.
Thank you. And first, I note that there's a large number of my friends from Pace Law School on tonight. I haven't seen any of you since this pandemic began a year ago, and I miss you all, and good to see you. When I heard that Carl Copeland, professor of law at the Elizabeth Howe School of Law at Pace University, was to be the honoree at this event, I begged for the privilege of introducing him. I've been an adjunct professor at Pace for almost 20 years, and I've come to appreciate Carl's unique contributions and his virtual personification of the spirit of the Hudson. We salute him tonight as a past board member and friend of Clearwater. Carl has directed Pace's environmental litigation clinic since 1994. He has served as principal outside counsel for Hudson Riverkeeper and has represented them in other environmental organizations in significant cases. Carl teaches a course called Environmental Skills and Practice that is unique in American legal education. Students follow the progress of a hypothetical Clean Water Act case, each taking a different role throughout the course. They learn that act and the skills connected to it thoroughly. When I begin my own courses, I ask the students what other courses they've taken. If they tell me they took environmental skills with Carl, I know I could expect great things from them, and they never disappoint. Carl is also the principal author of the problem case, briefed and argued by students from all over the country in PACE's National Environmental Law Moot Court Competition. These problems are fiendishly challenging and full of great lessons in environmental law. Despite those challenges, the competition has steadily grown into the premier event of its kind. One year, I had the pleasure of judging a round of the competition alongside Carl. He arrived in the courtroom with an armful of law books, which he actually did consult while peppering the students with questions. The students, who had no idea that their inquisitor was the author of the problem, rose to the occasion brilliantly. As an environmentalist, Carl truly walks the walk. He commutes across the Hudson in a kayak that he built himself. Nobody is totally sure how he gets from the river to campus, but I believe a bicycle is involved. He sailed across the Atlantic with his family and plans on a lot more sailing in years to come. His book, Live Sustainably Now, sets it all out, and I can tell you that he truly lives it. Carl's earliest students and clinic colleagues, who went on to establish a riverkeeper organization in another part of the country, said it well in the following tribute. Carl Copeland's leadership, and perhaps the entire source of his inspirational force, lies in his quiet, unassuming demeanor. If he intends to inspire his students, it's not directly apparent, but if you ask any of his students, current or alum, I've yet to find a person who doesn't hold Carl in the highest regard. He leads by example, not rhetoric. He inspires through deeds. I'm proud to salute Carl tonight, to thank him for all he's done for our Hudson River, and to introduce him to all of you.
Well, thank you, Seth, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Clearwater, for the Spirit of the Hudson Award. I can't say how tickled and honored I am, especially something called the Spirit of the Hudson, because there's spirits of the Hudson in my bloodstream, and I can't help it. I've swallowed enough Hudson River over the years that I can't help but carry a little bit of the river around me everywhere I go. And not everybody knows this, but in 1980, my girlfriend Robin Bell, and I, just finishing college in Vermont, we built a small sailboat out of plywood, a 24-foot sailing dory. And we rowed it down the Hudson River. We rowed it down the Champlain Canal from Lake Champlain and all the way down the Hudson River. And we passed Clearwater several times along the way, of course. And every time, I was already aware of the great connection between Clearwater and the Hudson River and the great work Pete Seeger had done in bringing that to fruition. Of course, we sailed the boat to Woods Hole, and when we sailed into Woods Hole there, Robin Bell went to an interview at the United States Geological Survey and got a great job there, and led to her career, and a great career as a polar scientist and climate scientist and research geologist at Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. She'll be on the agenda later. And yes, 40 years later, somehow we're still married. I sailed the boat back to New York and went to law school, where I learned eventually, after a couple of years in practice, that most of what lawyers fight about is money, and that if you're passionate about money, that's a great thing to be a lawyer. But if you're not care about money, there are other things lawyers can do. And my great fortune 14 years after that trip down the Hudson was in 1994, getting a job at the Pace Environmental Litigation Clinic. And I think having sailed a tiny boat down the Hudson River was the reason I got the job rather than other applicant. And I got to say, that was the dream job for me. If I could have invented the perfect job, being able to work with students and introduce students to the practice of law, and the practice of law in something they're passionate about, representing a great public interest organization, Riverkeeper, who was then and is still the clinic's primary client. never having to collect a bill from a client, though often when we were successful collecting bills from the polluters who were the defendants in our cases. It really was a way to turn my passion into practice. And I'm so grateful for that. And at the same time, that's about the time I got involved in the Clearwater Board, which is another piece of good luck. And I'm so grateful for that experience too. Just being able to say I shook hands with Pete Seeger once or twice is just part of the great part of my life. I know many former students are here, many representatives from Clearwater, many representatives from Pace Law School, friends of mine from the Nyack Boat Club, where we still sail a boat on the Hudson River regularly. And you know, these events are like a family reunion, and I'm missing my family. I miss in-person revival, and I can't wait till the next one we can all go to together. But I'm so gratified to see so many people I know and love here tonight. And I wish I was here in person to go around and shake hands and give hugs and thank people for supporting Clearwater and the great work it does. And with that, I just close by saying, again, how lucky I am to have been able to turn my passion for the Hudson River into practice and a rewarding career. And also, I noticed that the award that you sent says for as a legal advocate and mentor. And if there's anything that I'm most proud of in all the legal work I've done, it's the number of students that I've trained and who have gone on to turn their passion into practice and who are still working, fighting for clean water in the Hudson Valley, around the country, for Riverkeeper, for other Waterkeeper, for other organizations like Clearwater around the country and around the world. And that's what I'm most proud of in everything that I've done. And also proud to have been part of Clearwater, which started out as a proposal to make a replica of something historic, the Hudson River sloops that sailed up and down the river. And now Clearwater itself, and even the sloop Clearwater itself at 50 years old, is a part of history. And as Pete Seeger said, 100 years from now, and a couple of mainmasts and probably several more mainsails later, hopefully it'll still be sailing the Hudson River. And maybe some of my students will be around to watch it. Thank you so much for this award, and for everybody who came out here tonight to support
it. Thank you, Carl. And we're really lucky that you, in fact, sailed down the Hudson and fell in love with the river and became the activist that you are and the successful lawyer that you are. And we trust that in the months to come, you'll be back out there on the river, and we'll see you as we sail past, and we'll give you a wave, and maybe we'll catch you on, get you on board too to say hello. So thanks. It's really, it's an honor that you're here tonight, and we're happy to be able to award this to you. We have a second award that we're giving tonight, the Lifetime Service to Clearwater Award. And this year it goes not to an individual, but to a group, the Beacon Sloop Club. You know, the Beacon, on their masthead, that is the masthead of their monthly newsletter, the broadside, it says, serving the Hudson River with pride for 48 years, nearly 5 decades. And they've been carrying out the mission of education, action, and celebration for all that time. You know, in the Strawberry Festival, the Corn Festival, the Pumpkin Festival that they sponsor, they're really second only to Revival in bringing the Clearwater community together on the banks of. And I think most important, the club has really provided a successful model for reaching out to and engaging the local communities to spread Clearwater's message and ideals. And great is their role in the annual Martin Luther King Birthday Day Parade in Beacon. They really take a major role in making that happen each year. And local organizations are welcome to set up booths at their festivals and spread their message and raise a little money while they're there. They really are plugged into the community of Beacon. The Woody Guthrie, of course, which they now own and operate, has taken thousands sailing for free. And you know, the club has not only been had a lot of fun sailing her, but they've been great stewards of the Woody, which, as many of you know, was built by Pete, and actually by Jim Cricker, who is going to be on later tonight in the breakout session. But the Beacon Sloop Club has been a great steward of the Woody Guthrie. They successfully carried out a $400,000 restoration project on her when they took her over a few years back. They're also really creative in designing programming. I'm looking forward to their Haiku-Nanny on April 11th, a contest to write haiku about the river. And it'll be a fundraiser for Clearwater. And you'll see more about that on their website. Maybe Susan will talk about it as well. But in all their events, they're really organized and carrying them out. They work cooperatively. They work with a sense of fun. It's always a pleasure to be down at the festivals and at the riverfront with the Beacon Sloop Club members. So we're pleased to honor them tonight with the Clearwater Lifetime Contribution Award. And I'm going to introduce the president of the Beacon Sloop Club, Susan Berliner, to accept the honor. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, the board. Thank you, Clearwater. And thank everybody, all of you, for keeping Clearwater so alive this past year and for all these years. The Beacon Sloop Club is very happy to receive this award. It says, to the Beacon Sloop Club, fierce defenders of the Hudson River. And fierce is the perfect word for the Beacon Sloop Club. It is a great honor and one which we truly share with all the sloop clubs. The sloop clubs are really one entity. They are all part of the prologue of the Clearwater origin story. It was my understanding from Toshi and Pete and others who were there when it all began, that when the Clearwater was to sail up and down the Hudson River, there would be a sloop club in every port to welcome the boat with food, firewood, ice, news, to take the crew for showers and laundry, to share some songs and some stories and spread the message. So the summer of 1969, when Clearwater sailed into the Beacon Harbor, the Beacon Sloop Club was there to greet it, already tucked into our little abandoned ferry diner at the edge of the Hudson River. The Beacon Sloop Club was, in many ways, the template for all the sloop clubs. We were the guinea pigs, happy guinea pigs, for the repository of Pete and Toshi's inspiration, wisdom, and fountain of ideas. Monthly potluck sing-along meetings, projects and projects and projects and projects, the Shad Fest, the Strawberry Fest, corn, pumpkin. We threw in a recycling fest there in the 90s. Some of you might remember the park, converting the city dump out on the point into a beautiful community riverfront park, which is now called Pete and Toshi Seeger Riverfront Park. It's home to our festivals. And in 1978, the ferry sloop Woody Guthrie, which is the vessel of our shared mission to bring as many people as possible to the river so they could experience it firsthand, fall in love with it, and join us to protect, preserve, and restore it. You are all invited to join us for a sail on the Woody Guthrie. It's free. The Beacon Sloop Club, of course, had the great good fortune to have Toshi and Pete as our most steadfast members. They were a constant presence in our lives. They taught us the rewards of hard work well done, the art of celebration. The phrase work party is not one I hear outside of Clearwater circles, but we all know it's the way to get things done. They taught us to question authority, and if something felt wrong, to argue, which we do really well. But when you work together, fight together, eat, sing, sail together, accomplish and celebrate together, you're a family. We are a family. The Beacon Sloop Club, all the sloop clubs, the Clearwater, all of us. And like all of us here tonight, I can't imagine a world without Clearwater. So I thank you on behalf of the Beacon Sloop Club for this amazing family, your incredible work, and the great joy of being part of it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for all the great work that you do and all the great work that your club members do. It's always a pleasure to be down there and to see you in action. And I do look forward to Strawberry Shortcake in June. I hope that happens for real this year. It is the best strawberry shortcake in the Hudson Valley, no question. Well, one other way in which the Beacon Sloop Club has been really helpful is they've supported Clearwater financially over the years and been very substantial in their support. And a main purpose of our event tonight is, in fact, to support Clearwater financially. It costs a lot of money to keep that boat out on the water, sailing, doing the programs, carrying forward all the missions you've seen in the videos tonight. And this is the next few minutes, we're going to give you a chance to contribute to that through our Fund a Need program. This is really a chance to just put some money in towards supporting Clearwater in general, its education programs, its environmental action programs, the boat itself, the needs of the boat. And along with the auction items, you'll see donation buttons for various levels of money there. And we hope that you will be generous in supporting Clearwater through the Fund a Need change. And I'm going to bring Meg Mayo back to talk a little bit more about how to make your contributions on that page. So, Meg.
Hey, Steve, thank you. The Fund a Need link has been dropped into the chat, and that link will take you directly to the Fund a Need category on the Ready Set Auction website. We also have the option of you can use PayPal if that's easier, and Molly and Erica will drop the PayPal link in the chat again as well. So there are a number of different levels of donation that we have listed there. I want to mention that the single largest category of funders that support Clearwater is individuals. The vast majority of our financial support comes from individuals, just like everybody on this call today. And that is an incredible statistic for an organization like ours. And that grassroots support is so vital to supporting Clearwater's work today and going forward. And Steve, I'm wondering if you can, me being the newbie, I don't have the numbers that just roll out really easily, and you know it so much better. Can we talk a little bit about some of the things that our guests tonight can help us fund?
Sure. In terms of education, you know, it costs a lot to operate the boat. Just to take it off the dock costs a lot of money. But we try to keep the price of a sail for schools down to something that they can afford. And so we charge schools $1,500 to come out for a sail on the boat for up to 50 kids. And you know, PTAs raise the money, they may get grants to help it out. You know, BOCES may help out, but a lot of the support of Clearwater, since we're charging that reduced rate, comes from our members. They help to make up the difference between what we charge the schools and what it actually costs to keep the boat out there. So, but you can use $1,500 as one example of something that could be funded. Another thing we do is to put together information sessions, briefing sessions for elected officials, for citizens who want to take action. This spring we have a briefing for Congress coming up in a few weeks, and it costs money to put that together. I believe that we're working with an organization in DC to help us do that, and that is something that's going to cost around $5,000. So your money could go towards helping that environmental action. We did one of these last fall and had over 200 elected officials and staff and press at this event in Washington. So that's another way you can help us. There are smaller items that are needed. You know, hardware on the boat, line, halyards, food for the crew. They eat a lot. They need a lot. It's cold out there sometimes, and you know, having that a good amount of food to keep them all stoked up for the work they're doing out on the river. Your support can go to that as well. Now, those are just a few examples. Meg, I understand that we already have some major contributions that are going to be put forward as challenges to folks who are attending tonight.
We do, in fact, Steve. I'm glad that you brought that up. We have received an anonymous contribution from a supporter of $5,000. That will match the first $5,000 that we raised through the Fund a Need tonight. So I hope that you will help us meet that challenge by going to the Fund a Need section on Ready Set Auction and choosing an amount to donate, or donating an amount of any size through PayPal if that's your preference. Every penny helps, and we really want to get to reach this challenge and get this extra $5,000, and we need your help to do it.
I'll add that another challenge has come in towards that 5,000, I think, but also a challenge from former educators on the boat. You know, at a real gala, when this time comes around, the different tables would pull out their wallets and maybe pool some money. Each would put in $50 or whatever to achieve a larger goal, helping a school sail on the boat, for example. Well, a number of onboard educators did that in advance. They came up with $750, which is half the cost of one of those school sails that I mentioned. So we're challenging other former crew, and I know there's a lot of you on the call tonight, especially you captains. We're challenging you to come up with the other $750 to make up $1,500 contribution towards helping a school come on the boat for a sail. So we hope that you'll chip in for that. And I believe now I should say also that although you'll see some auction items up there, perhaps the auction is closed. Is that correct, Meg?
It is. The auction has officially closed now. So we will be able to announce the winners after the program is over. But the auction is now closed, but the Fund a Need is not closed yet.
And the Fund a Need, I believe, is not going to end tonight. We will keep that open for a few days. So
correct. We're going to leave that open for a little longer. And we will be sending some follow-up information about that to everybody as well in our follow-up email, including information about some of the links that we've talked about tonight and about our honorees. So
great.
And if I could just take one moment to shout out to all of the NYACers on this. I'm a NYACer, and all of the NYAC Boat Club people. Hello to everybody.
And for me, of course, I see among the participants many of the crew I sailed with during my time at the boat. And folks, you know, that period of my life was formative in so many ways. I met my wife on the Clearwater, but also the friendships that both she and I formed back then as part of Clearwater are the friendships we still have today. And I know that many of them are great supporters of Clearwater as well. And I'm sure that many of you have those sorts of friendships, those sorts of relationships all brought together through Clearwater. And I hope that you can support Clearwater so that others will be able to meet up, perhaps their spouse, perhaps not, but we'd be able to meet friends and continue the work of Clearwater into the future and take it into your communities beyond the boat as well. Because that certainly happened among the friends that I met when I was sailing on Clearwater.
Steve, I have breaking news to announce. We have another challenge that has come in. Annie O has announced a challenge of an additional $5,000 for tonight's fundraising, and that will match. That will go against her account.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy.
We have another challenge out there, and I am having a little technical problem here, so I can't actually look at where we are with the Fund a Need right now. It's a story of the evening tonight. Oh, I'm getting some money coming in. Nope, I'm sorry, it's not coming in. I can't see it.
Well, I'm actually sure the money is coming in, Meg. It's just not
it.
showing on your screen. I can see in chat that the captains and the crew are getting together, getting their heads together and opening their wallets to meet the challenge from the educators, for sure.
Excellent, excellent.
That's great. So, and we should say a bit more about the sailing season too. We are, COVID has been a real challenge over the last year. Obviously, we weren't able to do our in-person programs, but it was great to see the boat out there. And, it was, for me, it was a symbol of hope in a very tough time. We were all socially distancing, wearing masks, unable to get together in the ways we were used to. And we wondered if this would ever end, if we could overcome the threats and the dangers of COVID. And as I looked at the boat out there on the river, sailing through this, our crew, by the way, was considered to be a family, so they were able to get out on the water and sail the boat. I was reminded that back when Clearwater started, a lot of people didn't think it was going to be possible to clean up the river. It was a real mess. But Clearwater and Riverkeeper and Scenic Hudson and so many individuals and elected officials came together to make it happen. And in fact, the river is a whole lot better now than it was back then. So Clearwater really, in being the symbol of the environmental movement on the Hudson, is a symbol of hope, a symbol of the success that we can have if we work together to overcome the threats and the dangers that we have, whether it's COVID or climate change or PCBs or whatever happens to be. So a salute to Clearwater as a symbol of that hope, as a symbol of people working together to make things happen and successfully achieving goals. So again, if we'd like you to help us do that through your contributions and our Fund a Need, we have just a couple more minutes to be able to contribute that before we go on to the last pieces of our program tonight. Are you able to get any numbers there, Meg? Any luck?
Anne is pulling up some names, but I don't want to delay things too much here because I know we want to keep things moving along.
Maybe what we could do is get a total that we could announce before we close out the show tonight.
Excellent idea, Steve. Yep, we'll go.
We'll be able to really give people their due and recognize what's been happening. But but please, we're going to go on to other things, but go to the Fund a Need page, go to it's on the auction page, and the link is in the chat. Please, if you can spare a little, we'd love to have your support. And thanks so much. Well, I'm going to turn things back over to Ron now. And I also want to thank Ron in particular because, he's been a great supporter of Clearwater. He's been coming to all those festivals, and he does a great job as a folk music presenter and disc jockey. It's not an easy field to be in. There's not the big bucks. There's not the 50,000 watt radio stations promoting this stuff. But Ron's done a great job at WFDU in New Jersey and TNEC, and also through Folk Music Notebook, sort of an online radio station. I encourage you to check it out at folkmusicnotebook.com. It's a wonderful resource, a wonderful place to go listen to music that we all love. And that makes him also the perfect person to introduce the next segment of our program tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Ron.
Well, thank you, Steve. And listen, I want you and Meg next year when I have to do a fund drive on WFTU. I want the two of you there because you were fantastic. I'm sitting here watching all these matching funds come in. You guys are great. And who really is great is everybody who's watching and who's donating tonight. All of us, we could have been sitting binge watching some show on Netflix, but no, we're doing something really good and powerful. And all of your donations are really making a huge difference in the lives of all those school children and everybody who loves this river. So thank you for doing all this. And now I get to do a role that I'm most comfortable with. I get to be DJ. I guess actually a video DJ tonight, because I'm about to introduce our musical guest, and what a guest. He grew up in Camden, Maine, and he worked on a variety of vessels in the shipyards there. And while he was working, he got to talk to those who were on board these boats. And he heard the songs and he heard the stories. And before you know it, he was writing his own songs and sharing some incredible stories. Now, he was on board the Clearwater for that first trip in 1969 when it came from Camden, Maine down to the Hudson. It was a musical crew, and he was probably the only one there that really knew anything about about sailing a sloop, aside from Pete, of course, and the real crew. But he was a gentleman that is, as an artist, has toured the U.S. He's toured internationally, both as a solo artist and also performing in a trio with Anne Mayo Muir and Ed Trickett. And nowadays, he's staying close to Maine, but we are so honored that he's able to join us tonight from his home. And it is indeed an honor for me to be able to introduce the legendary Gordon Bach.
At the time the Clearwater was being built, I was working on boats in the summer and doing concerts and touring in the winter. And somehow the Seegers heard of me and asked me to join, and it sounded like fun to help get her rigged and ready for sea and get her to New York. I think in the winter before we did a benefit or two. I know we did one in Aunapu, Maine, at the university there. But the next summer, they were getting ready to launch her. I went down and helped to work on a rig, and Captain Aunapu was there, and so I was working with him. And Cy Cousins, who designed that boat, had done a really good job of putting together, figuring out how the traditional boat should look and work. And he didn't have much to go on. There was only one of those type of boats still existing, and she was right in my own dooryard. As a matter of fact, one of my first jobs on a boat was on her, and I sailed her for 2 different owners. She was the same hull pretty much as the Clearwater, Hudson River brick schooner called the Stephen Tabor. And about when they built the Clearwater, the Tabor was over 100 years old at the time, and still sailing without an engine, carrying passengers now. But the difference was Clearwater's job was not going to be, she wasn't going to be run by professionals. She was going to be run by volunteers, and mostly amateurs are going to be aboard of her. And so Alan and I got looking at that rig and realized that the traditional boats had one single topping lift to hold the main boom up. And that boom was like 50, 60 feet and that big in the middle. I don't know what it weighed, but I wouldn't want it dropping on me. And plus all that sail above it. And that's just not the kind of thing you drop dripping wet on the deck with a bunch of volunteers there. So we put coaster lifts on it, one on each side of the boom, which are just wire shrouds, you might call them, but topping lifts. And then a series of lines coming down and under the sail called lazy jacks. And as the name might imply, it made dropping that sail and handling that sail a whole lot easier. You could drop that whole thing slack a sheet off, drop that whole thing, and be done with it. It's out of the way. You don't have to deal with it until you want to. So we did that, and they had it was traditional to have a big boom on the jib, and that was a big jib. And that it was low cut, so it was swinging low across the foredeck there. And just the thought of that slapping into some volunteer who couldn't move fast enough just scared me. So I talked him into getting rid of that. And the rest of it, she just sort of showed us what she needed to make herself work. And little things like we let out the main once with the topsail up in it, came against the topmast spreader, the shroud spreaders, and busted one off. So Louis Killen and I went up and made another set, just as long, same length, but they attached by one single bolt into the cross trees. And that let the whole thing swing forward and kind of cushion that main. And as far as I know, that's still working. All in all, Cy did a good job of designing that boat. So as a result, we had a pretty benign trip down there. The only time there was any trouble was when we were sailing along the north shore of Long Island, and we were heading west, and this double-decker motor yacht came out of one of those harbors. It might have been Port Jefferson. It was in that area anyway, and he was on a collision course with us. But we figured that out, that we were blowing our horn and stuff like that, because we had the right of way, being sail and also in the aspect we were to him. Well, he wasn't paying any attention, and finally, I think Ellen said, there's nobody steering that thing. So we made as quick a maneuver as one can in a boat going slow that size, and we just kind of bumped. Well, this guy come up on deck, and he was all of leather. He didn't like that. He thought we'd snuck up on him, 8 stories tall and 8 stories wide. We really snuck up on him. But he told us he'd been in the kitchen. So we made a mental note to keep our eyes open in those areas. Anyway, we got her to New York, doing concerts along the way, and I wasn't hired as mate. They had another young fella there that they'd brought up from Connecticut, I believe, and but it turns out that he was a lot more comfortable with that big engine they put in there than I was, and I was a lot more comfortable with that big rig than he was. So we just swapped jobs, and we took her to the Hudson. That's all they hired me to do, was to get her to New York. And I did that, and that was fine. But then they asked me to go on up to Albany, and I'm really glad they did, because I had more time with the musicians at that time. People were more familiar with the boat. There was less to worry about, and it was fun working that river and singing the songs. And I thought, I could get used to this. I wonder if I can keep doing this. Turns out I could. Here's a song I learned on another boat. She was a Brixham trawler called Provident. And we took her from Plymouth, England, down to Lisbon, Portugal, in 1964, I believe. And I learned a song on her. Johnny Todd, he took an ocean for to cross the ocean wide, and he left his own true love behind him, walking She wept with sorrow, tore her hair and wrung her hands. Then she met another handsome sailor walking by the Liverpool sands. Why, fair maid, are you weeping for your Johnny gone to sea? Johnny's gone, but I am here beside you. I will kind and constant be. I will buy you sheets and blankets. I'll buy you a wedding ring. And you shall have a little golden cradle for to rock the baby in. Johnny Todd's come home from sailing on the ocean wide, and he's found his little false and fair one was another sailor's bride. So all young lads who go sailing for to fight the foreign foe, never leave your love behind like Johnny. Marry her before you go. Where do you go, little herring? What do you see, tail and fin? Blue and green, cold and dark, seaweed growing high, hills 100 fathom deep, where the dead men lie. Dogfish eyes and mackerel's eyes, and they hunger after me. Net or where, I don't care, catch me if you can. Where do you go, little boat? Tar and timber, plank and sail. I go to green bays, lift them under me. Cold gray combing seas come to bury me. Rocky jaws and stony claws, and they hunger after me. Harbors cold, deep and bold, I wish that I could see. What do you see, fisherman? Poor old sailor, blood and bone. Mackerel skies, mares' tails, reef and furl and steer. Poor haul and hungry days, rotten line and gear. Snow, wind and winter gales, and they hunger after me. Net or where, I don't care, catch you if I can. Where have you gone, little herring? What have you seen, tail and fin? Cold and black, dead and dark, seaweed torn away. Draggers stabbing everywhere, truck this garden dry. Pear trawl, mid-water trough, Lord, they hungered after me. Tore my home to hell and gone, no place here for me.
Thank you, Gordon Bach. That was just beautiful. Your songs and your stories have been favorites of mine, and I know audiences for decades, and it's been a real privilege to hear you tonight. Well, this is the point of the evening that if we were in the banquet hall together, dessert would have been served, it would be finished, they'd be clearing the tables, and we would now have our chance to get together to enjoy each other's company. And we're going to keep that tradition going. I'd like to welcome back Clearwater Board President and Acting Executive Director Steve Sand, who's going to tell us about some exciting breakout rooms that we have planned. Steve, are you there?
I am. And thanks, Ron. And thank you, Gordon. That was just marvelous. It was great to hear the stories and great to hear your voice and that lovely Maine accent as well. Yes, we have, as Ron said, this is a time when in the gala when folks would be doing a little table hopping or maybe just deeply engaged in conversation that had come up over the course of the evening, on topics that had come up over the course of the evening. So we've tried to capture that with 3 breakout rooms that you can go to. And the 3 are, as we mentioned earlier, a session hosted by Betsy Garthwaite, Mary Ellen Healy, and Vince Uniglia, remembering Captain Alan Aunapu. And if you want to share stories of him or just learn more about him, please check into that breakout room. If you're interested in learning more about climate change and also how a world famous scientist and a Clearwater educator and author came to their careers and what they think the role of women is in the climate change battle, then check out the session Climate Change from the Poles to Poughkeepsie with Dr. Robin Bell and Maya Nemisto. And finally, if your tastes really run to boats and how they're maintained and to the esoterica of the innards of Clearwater and other boats like her, I invite you to join Jim Cricker and Captain Nick Rogers for a breakout session on keeping Clearwater fit for the next 50 years. Now, a few instructions for doing this. You should see at the bottom of your screen a little link that says breakout rooms. Clicking on that should allow you to choose the breakout room that you would like to go to. You're also, by the way, welcome to stay in the main room if there are folks here who you just want to chat with. It's a good time now to unmute yourselves and go ahead and start speaking to one another and not just writing in text. And that'll be going on in the breakout rooms as well. I do suggest that if you're, once we're in the breakout rooms, or if you're going to stay in the main room here, that you look to the upper right-hand corner of your screen and the little view tab up there. If you click on that, you should see various options for views, speaker view or gallery view or full screen, etc. You might want to choose gallery view so that you can see all the other folks who are in the room with you. So I suggest that you select that option once you go there. And I should also say that we will be, while this is going on, we will be figuring out who's won the auction items too, I believe, Meg. And we'll be posting that in the main room and chat in the main room. And we will have moderators for each of the breakout rooms. And a piece of advice that I've shared with some of you, but maybe not all moderators, is that when you get into your breakout room, we're not sure if Zoom will record them automatically. So we're going to ask you to start recording when you enter the breakout rooms. We're running a little late, so we're going to keep the breakout rooms a little shorter than we had planned. And before we go into the breakout rooms, I'd really like to say some thanks. And I think Ron has some too, but I would like to start by thanking Ron in particular, and again, the Gala Planning Committee, Ben Kaminsky, Amalie Knobloch, Erica Lucy, Erin Macchiaroli, James Malcho, Megan Mayo, Ann Malore, Ginny Napierkowski, Rosemary Thomas, and Greg Williams. They all put in a whole lot of hours putting this thing together for you tonight. And Ron, I think you had some thank yous too, perhaps?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you mentioned many of the names. So I won't go and repeat them, but I do have my sincere thanks to all of the board members, to you, and to everyone who invited me to be part of this. The Clearwater has meant a lot to me, not only through the radio station, but living here in New Jersey and seeing the beauty of the Hudson River and seeing the work that you've done all these years and knowing how much more work needs to be done and the fact that you're all out there fighting it. I am so proud.
It was also, as an aftermath, when Alan died, somehow I linked up with Greg again, his son. And I remember Greg as this little long-haired kid, he would have been, I don't know what, 8, 9, 10 years old in 1969 when he was on the sloop. And, it's rarely that kind of time interval goes by before you see somebody again. And it was magic. And we've now hooked up again and exchanged emails, and I really hope we'll keep in touch. But
yeah, me too. I mean, I think that's the point of all this. Absolutely. I just want to remind everybody, if you're not sharing a story, to please mute yourself. And then I have Sarah Underhill, who is also a former crew member, who is going to help me just manage how many of our people. Doesn't look like it's a terrible number of people, but just if people have stories and they want to participate, Sarah's going to help me identify who's got their hand up and that sort of thing. So if you're not speaking, just put yourself on mute. And Andy, thank you so much. I'm sorry we're going to lose you soon because you have another obligation, but everybody really appreciates your story and your contribution as well to the history of the Clearwater, no doubt. Just because we suddenly broke off into these sessions, like I accepted an invitation to start this breakout session. I was immediately disconnected from the main gala, which was a surprise to me. Just want to let you know that, well, it looks like everybody here knows who I am. I'm Betsy Garthwaite. I'm a former captain of the Clearwater, and I was asked to moderate this breakout room. I, graciously accepted because, Alan is like a god to me. He's a god to me. And I want to tell you, I first met him at the 1994 festival that Andy Wallace was referring to when we were celebrating the 25th anniversary of the launching of the sloop. I was a current captain at the time, and Toshi Seeger had asked me to please invite all former captains that I could track down back to that year's festival. But she took it upon herself to bring back Alan and all of the living members of the maiden voyage crew, so they could also have a reunion and could also have their moment on stage. And that's when I first met Alan. And I remember meeting him distinctly because I had heard such incredible stories about him. Like some were funny, some were outrageous, but like mostly of his amazing feats as a sailor. And I remember saying to him, "You're my hero." And Alan, I was surprised at the time, but now that I know him a little bit better, it doesn't surprise me at all. He turned around and said to me, "You're my hero. You're my hero," because he didn't have to know anything about me, but I was a captain of the Clearwater, and that meant a lot to him. And I know that there are people in this session that knew Alan a lot better than I did, but I just wanted to share one story because it's the most memorable conversation I had with Alan. We started talking. we didn't keep in touch after 1994, but we started talking when I started posting some Clearwater moments, you might say, on Facebook. And sometimes Alan would want to correct me on something I posted, or he would want to comment, or he would want to say, maybe he deserved more credit than this other person, or what have you. And he would call me up. He would call me up. And there was one time he called me up. I was at my house. It was in the evening. And he started going down this.
What time in the
I
evening?
would say, oh, like it was early evening, but he was going down this negative spiral of how he'd been fired by the board and the board never listened to him. And I was like, he was just depressing me because he had like held on to some of this negative energy for all this time. And so I wanted to turn this conversation around. And I knew from the research I had done and that I had a copy of this Clearwater newsletter from 1969, that the boat was docked in Albany for a waterfront festival the entire weekend of August 15th through 17th, 1969. And I said, Alan, if the boat's gonna be tied up to the dock, it doesn't really need a captain, does it? Did you by any chance go to Woodstock? And he like proceeds with this amazing story. He's like, oh yes, my wife Eve and I got in our VW bus. And my first thought was, of course you had a VW bus. And they drove to Woodstock and they had the best time, and they hung out backstage with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, because he knew David Crosby from sailing, and was up on stage one morning throwing out candy to the crowd with wavy gravy, and he just had the absolute best time. And I just loved having that conversation with Alan, and I want to turn it over now to other people who have other stories about Alan. So I don't know, Diane, Alan's sister, you're raising your hand, so you're next.
You're mute.
Diane, you need to unmute yourself. Diane, I think you're muted.
Unmute. Okay, I keep clicking it. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me now?
Okay, there you go.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Diane Aunapu Masaitis. Alan is my brother, and I miss him terribly, and I cry every day. He was a bright light in this life, and I heard so many stories about the Clearwater. But Betsy, to follow up on your talk about Woodstock, he told me that he had no intention of going backstage and helping with anybody. And David Crosby saw him. Apparently, Alan taught David how to sail when David bought a boat from a yacht broker that Alan used to know in Fort Lauderdale by the name of Bill Bowling. And he got bamboozled into working the entire Woodstock event. He didn't plan on it, but he was there helping set up all of the equipment and telling people where to go. Of course, he had instruction. And I asked him, I said, did you smoke marijuana? He goes, I'm not going to talk about the drugs I did, and I won't tell you if I was dressed or not, but it was a blast. And that's my brother. And he's always been out there, but he was a delight. And when he died, if he wasn't sailing, he loved riding motorcycles or riding bicycles. And he was riding his bicycle when he got hit and did not make it to the hospital. And we were all shocked. And I just love him so much. And he's the environmental advocate for our entire family. My daughter, Tiffany, she goes by Tifa, has 2 environmental master's degrees, one environmental entrepreneurship and the other one in environmental sustainability. And Alan was the catalyst for all of her hard works and efforts. She currently works for a commercial builder in Asheville, North Carolina, who emphasizes the environment. And anyway, thank you all so much for being here and honoring my brother. If I start crying, I'll just mute myself. But thank you all. I appreciate it very much. And Betsy, back to you. I don't know what to do. And
Thank you very much, Diane. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? Who's next? I know there are people who have stories. A lot of you knew Alan better than I did, so Mel and Vinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little, yeah, hi Diane, and I see Greg is here. Hi Greg. I knew Alan mostly as a friend. He was like a legend around the Clearwater, but I didn't really get to meet him till we started snowbirding down in Florida, and our friend Rod McDonald said we should come to an event where Alan would be, and Alan was in the song circle, and he and Vinny hit it off really well, and we just got to do fun things with Alan. We invited him to all of our open mic song circle Pete Seeger tribute events, and he'd put his guitar on his motorcycle and come wherever we wanted him to go, and he'd do Zombie Jamboree and his other wonderful original music. And we all had a great time doing that. But he also loved this satire parade that happened before the New Year's every year in North Miami called the King Mango Strut. And he would always be in a different group, but it was always just groups of people making satire about the year. One year we went as Italian ISIS, and we made little white cones and surrounded ourselves with colorful ice. I don't remember what Alan was that year, but the most memorable, I think, event, and then I'll let Vinny talk, that we did with Alan was, you know, he flew planes. He wasn't still flying when we caught up with him, but we actually heard recently through a mutual friend that we didn't know was also like a friend of Alan's, that he would just take his plane from Key West and fly up to Lake Worth to go to an open mic. And then he would fly back to Key West. And he invited us to these hangar parties on the runway by the places where they park the airplanes, and there'd be a sound system, and we'd all be out playing music while the planes are, you know, landing and taking off. And again, a story from a mutual friend, a different mutual friend, because I guess the folk circuit in Florida is pretty small. We all know each other. He would like bring his plane in and just like be able to drop it on the runway right next to the music. So those are some of my wonderful Alan memories, and it was very sad news.
Yeah, well, what they said, that he would drop that plane like he was on an aircraft carrier, just just let the plane drop and it was dead, and which probably led to the repairs. What didn't fly too much after that? It cost too much because the struts couldn't take it. At the Mango Strut, his most memorable visage of him, he went as Fidel Castro in a wheelchair when he was sick. He loved the Mango Strut. He was one of the founders, and we went for a number of years. Just a wonderful event. It was like a Mardi Gras. But what I remember Alan as whatever he was there true. There wasn't any pretense with him. There was no agenda. There was only him, and as funny and as crazy as he was, he was in the present, and he was with you, and it a really special human.
Well, Somebody else should go.
Yeah.
I just am so grateful, Mel and Vinny, that we had that catfish dinner last year, the fish fry with him, and he had his long socks on his arms to shield him from the sun. His sunscreen, he called it, the socks up his arms was the sunscreen, and he loved the waitress there at the catfish place. But I'm so grateful I got to tell him that he was my first captain, and when I was 13 years old, and that I always remember that sail with the wind behind us from Beacon to New York City. My mom got my sister and I on board in the days when they showed up at the dock and said, "Who wants to go for a sail?" And we jumped on. We had no idea how we were going to get home from New York City, but Alan remembered that sail and he said, yes, that was the fastest sail to New York City from Beacon with the wind behind us. And I was bit by the bug at 13. And I'm so glad I got to tell him that story. Thanks for arranging our dinner together last year when I came to visit you.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Mel and Vinny. You know, I had no idea Alan was a pilot, but it doesn't surprise me one bit, or that he would expect you to play music for his landings. Oh my God, of course. Gosh.
I'll talk.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Alan came on the boat as relief skipper when I was crewing around 1979, 1980. And that was great. And his specialty was sailing on and off the dock, not using the engine no matter what. And I don't know if this was before or after the Mango Strut, but our nickname for him was Daddy Mango. Or at least that's what some of us called him. And I remember one night we're sailing way upriver in the Hudson. There's no wind. It's the middle of the night. But would we turn on the engine? No, because we're saving fuel and we're not going to burn fossil fuel. So Alan would just keep the crew up all night, and we're sailing in this very light air with the tide, and we're just barely making any progress. And we could hear on the radio, there's a couple of tugboats coming. One's coming north, one's coming south. And one of them asked the other, "You got any traffic up there, Cap?" And he goes, "Yeah, we got the Clearwater floundering around up here." And Alan rushes to the radio and says, "Hey, we're doing better than a quarter of a knot." And the other captain comes back and goes, "That's terrific." But we were, like idiots. We would stay up all night sailing that boat, to get 2 miles just so we wouldn't turn the engine on. But Alan was an amazing teacher, and I had other sailors compliment us and say, you learn to sail from the best. You learn from real sailors like Alan Aunapu and Peter Wilcox. So that was a privilege. And Alan was a fantastic mentor. Daddy Mango.
I have a quick thing to add. When he was at Revival 2 years ago, I helped him book the transportation to get up from Florida and back. When he finished with Sight Crew after the festival, I said, I can get you a flight from LaGuardia to Fort Lauderdale or something. He goes, "Are there any other ways to get there? I don't really like how much jet fuel it gets used in air travel." And I said, "Well, there's bus or train." He goes, "We'll do the train." And I looked it up, and I said, "Alan, it's a 26-hour train." He goes, "That's okay, that's perfect." And so he took the train back from New York to Florida after Revival last time, just like he avoided using the motor 40 years ago.
And just to go further with that, James, Alan had this idea that he was going to get a three-wheel recumbent and electrify it so that he could tow a solar trailer to charge the electric battery for his three-wheel recumbent so that he could go up to New York and back.
I would have liked to see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, James and Sarah, for those recollections. we of course invited Alan to join us in 2016 for Clearwater's second annual gala, which happened in the fall that year. Obviously an in-person gala, and it was a gala where we honored all the captains. And Alan was very reticent to come, you know, because of the idea of using the fossil fuel to come to an event. And, you know, in some ways, I wish I would have pushed him harder to attend, because we had so many captains there. We got an amazing turnout, but at the same time, Alan, you know, I was trying to imagine Alan at this like swanky affair, which is what Clearwater's Gala normally is, you know, like I've put on some like nice duds from the waist up for the Zoom, right? But you know, it's wow, I don't know. Alan was just, you know, pretty incredible guy, and I was intimidated by him sort of in a way, because I grew up in the Clearwater era, like because I got most of my sailing experience on Clearwater where we used the engine all the time just to keep on schedule. And I know Alan hated to use the engine, and he wouldn't use the engine. And because he grew up sailing and he grew up on boats without engines, he was so much more skilled than I could ever be, because I always had a crutch, so to speak. But it was also because the schedule demanded, you know, 9 to 12, 1 to 4. And that was different, you know, back then. But who else wants to talk? Alan Goldhammer, I see you raising your hand, because I see a bunch of people raising your hands. I think, I'm sorry, I think Zoom is supposed to have like a little,
if you go into the participant screen at the bottom, there's it either says raise hand, or there's a 3-dot menu you click on and it says raise hand. So if you don't have a camera up, that's how you get in line.
Yeah, but don't use that. Just wave your hand, you know, because that thing is.
If you have a camera.
Well, except
if you have a
Sarah,
camera, there's a lot of
I don't
people
have
that don't.
everybody.
There's
I don't
11
have everybody on my screen. I can't put all the participants.
What I want to
on one
say,
screen, so.
though, about Alan.
But go ahead, Alan.
Is in the 80s, I was sailing on the boat as crew, and he came on board. And it was like, you know, he was a legend, of course. But the way he was when he was on board was amazed me. He was very polite. He was asking whether he could steer the boat, and he was so humble about it, and was so grateful for being given a chance to do that it amazed me, and it was wonderful. Years later, many years later, he started coming to sight crew, where I was once again ensconced. And I had a leg up because we share a first name. There aren't very many of us LLA Allens around. And we got to hang out. And he's one of these people, I mean, I could imagine, I really wouldn't want to have him mad at me, because he has a strength to his opinions. But he was so open and generous, and we just hung out and did things. And I would look him up. I have a drawing somewhere made on a napkin of a self-writing, I think, catamaran hull that he had an idea for. And one time, I think it was the last revival on site that he was there, he wanted to see Guy Davis, who was a friend of his, and he hadn't had a chance to see him. And because I knew what was going on, I knew who to ask, I got him down to Circle of Song right by the river, and he got to be with Guy Davis again, for I guess for the last time. So I'm very glad that I had that to that time to share with him. He was a nice guy. There's not very many people. There are a few people like him that are as open as he was. I respected him tremendously. There was, no, I guess that's all I need to say.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Alan. You know, you say that about how nice he was, and I can't remember who it was who told me, whether it was Gordon Bach maybe, or Cy Hamlin, the boat's designer, who told me how great Alan was with children on the boat. Like, he was just phenomenal. But we are like running out of time. Apparently, they're going to close this room down. So
Greg
if I can get
Williams is
one or two
waiting.
more people in.
Greg's been waiting. Williams.
Yes, Greg. Yeah, I have Greg Aunapu here, who's also waiting.
I don't imagine I spent any more time with Alan as anyone else, but he was extraordinarily generous with his time. He, like a number of other people who I regard as just extraordinarily heroic, was nevertheless eager to spend time with people who were sort of starting out in their careers. You know, in my case, just starting out in the career of working for Clearwater, to help us be as good as we could be. And there's really nothing like that kind of personality that is passionately committed to helping individuals and organizations be as good as they can possibly be. And I wanted to especially thank James Malkow for having made the introduction and having helped get Alan to the last in-person Clearwater revival, without which I would never have met Alan in person.
Thanks, Greg. I would like to allow Greg Aunapu to speak now. Greg, if you could unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this. That's really wonderful of you. I can maybe add something to the Woodstock anecdote. It really did change his life. He thought that the world was going to change after that. And he said that when he went back there years later, it felt like a UFO had been there, and you could still feel this presence. That that was one of a wonderful experience for him there. But the van that you were talking about, we drove up from. He bought it new before in Florida, and we drove it up to Maine. And when we were picking up, we went to pick up the original block and tackle and so on from in Halifax, and we had thousands of pounds of these lignum vitae giant block and tackle, and who knows what else. And my mother was driving, and we got into somebody pulled out in front of us, and we went over an embankment and rolled down the hill. And we all survived without any injuries, amazingly. But there was a huge gash in the back in the side of the van, and he filled it with. He went and like a week later or something. He filled it with this flour material that he fiberglassed, and so we were stopped constantly by cops for the entire time we were up there, whenever we drove that around. And so it says that we're going to have 60 seconds. But anyway, so that was an interesting, he used to drive that van like a Maserati around all those turns around from along the Hudson River and stuff. And I used to like huddle in the back just with my eyes closed, because I thought for sure we were going to go over over the mountain. And but he was as crazy as he was as a driver, and really even on as a captain aboard boats, I remember the first time we came into South Street Seaport. You probably know there's a huge current that goes through there, and